All right. Hello, hello. Welcome to Cosplay Stitchery Level 1, where we are going to be talking about the ins and outs of the Cosplay Stitchery software made by Dime for cosplayers in mind. And joining me today, we are going to have Gloria watching the chat and a special guest, Beverly Downen. So let's go ahead and bring them on up. So here's Beverly.
Hi, Kristen. Good
Hi.
morning. Well, it's morning for me, kind of. It's 11 o'clock on the Pacific time. I'm so glad to be here. So excited to get started.
I'm super excited to have you joining us and get to talk all about embroidery.
Yes, this has been on my resolution. My New Year resolution for this year has been to finally learn some machine embroidery because I am a Mac user. And even though I've had a machine for years, I have
Mhm,
not been able to actually use it. I've always had to ask friends to help me out. So I'm really, really, really excited specifically
mhm.
about that aspect of the cosplay stitchery and um, my gosh, the name is escaping me. The software, the base software that you have that allows you to do all of the other software.
Yes,
You have to
embroidery
help me out.
tool
The
shed
tool
hosts
shed,
all of it.
the tool
Yeah.
shed. Yes, yes. So I'm very, very excited to finally unlock those skills so that I can add
Mhm.
some machine embroidery to my costumes.
That is great. I personally really love working with Cosplay Stitchery because out of all the softwares I've tried, because I've been doing embroidery now for a couple of years, because I think I got my first embroidery machine in 2020. And I've used 3 or 4 different softwares now, and this is the one I like the most because it's the most user friendly and you don't have to like go digging too hard to figure out how to do things, which, you don't want to spend all your time like digging through manuals and videos, be like, how exactly do I do this thing? And we have little easy buttons to do these things here. So,
You are singing to my heart, Kristen. The easy button is
well,
what I'm always looking for.
as
So yeah,
cosplayers, we
I'm
got to
very
like
excited.
keep the timing short.
That's right. That's right. As we both know.
All right. So we also have Gloria who will be answering questions in the chat. Hi, Gloria.
Hey guys! And yes, like Kirsten said, I'm going to be hanging out with you guys with Beverly in the chat
Mhm.
for the next like 90 minutes or so. And just post your excitement, post your questions. If you have anything along the way that you didn't miss, you missed the name on it, you weren't sure how that was really done, or you just need a little bit more info, we'll be there. Or just say hi to
Mhm.
Beverly. I'm sure she's so excited to meet everyone that decided to join us today. But yeah, and then every 30 minutes or so, Kirsten, I'll come back and check with you and bring you some of those really good, exciting questions for
All
everyone to
right.
hear.
Awesome.
I know I'm going to have a lot of questions as we go along because I am definitely learning along with everyone else. So I'm very, very happy to be a student today. Thank you for having me.
Yay. All
Of
right.
course.
Well, before we get started, Beverly, was there any like fun events you wanted to highlight? Because I know you've had some big things happen lately.
Oh my gosh, I've had quite a year. Well, let's see. I recently worked with a brand called Plastid on a new
Mhm.
paint color. That was pretty cool. I'm going to Planet Comic Con next week, which is in Kansas City. And then after that, I'm going on an international vacation with no
Ooh.
work involved at all to New Zealand, which is going to be very, very, very cool. It's definitely a bucket list thing that I have waited almost 50 years for. It's a birthday trip, so very excited about that.
That's exciting.
Mhm.
All right. So, quick question before we get started. What product are you most excited about for this to learn about?
You know, customization with cosplay is something that is always on my mind. So I'm really,
Mhm.
really interested in hearing how we can use cosplay stitchery to make custom designs. I think that
Mhm.
is in the forefront of my mind for every project. And yeah, we hardly, as cosplayers, we hardly reach for things that are already pre-made. There's always some kind of
Mhm.
customization that we are looking to do so it can fit with our costumes or our props. So that is something I'm really looking forward to hearing about.
All right. Well, we have some good examples for that we're going to get into.
Good.
All right. Well, then, I guess we shall go ahead and dive in and get started, and we'll bring you guys up during the first round of questions then. All right. So let's dive into it. Oh, there we go. So, what can you expect today? We are going to be talking about how you can create custom designs, and that's going to include digitizing examples in the software, project demos, tips and tricks to make it easier. So we're going to be bouncing between stuff in the software and then going under camera and showing you these items that we've designed and tools you can use to make these things a lot easier. Because as we said, as cosplayers, we want to save time so we can make more costumes, right? We don't want to struggle along the way. So first off, this is a learn and shop event where you can watch here in the video window. At the side, we have the chat pane where you can comment and ask questions, and that's where Gloria is going to slide in and answer your lovely questions, which if we do get a lot of questions at once, just give her a little bit of time and she will address them all. We also have products down below available at special prices, and this video will be available for the next 48 hours, as well as the deals. Now, a quick note about shopping. We do have a couple of different payment options here that you can see, and there are ones that offer payment plans. So that's going to be Shop Pay and PayPal. So, if there's a lot of stuff you want to get, but you need to space it out a little bit, do look into that. And there are discount codes below. So there is a 10% off as well as free shipping if you reach the certain total amount for your cart. So if you do reach those amounts, make sure you use those codes to save a little bit of money. And you enter those codes first off by showing your order summary. Then here at the bottom, you're going to type in the codes, which those should be below this not chat window, this video window. You'll see them like scrolling right down there. And yeah, so then we also have a free gift included. This gift is a little potion bottle digitized design. So it's ready for you to stitch out. You just need an embroidery machine in order to do it. You have all stitch formats included. This can be found at the bottom of the shopping cart. So you're going to have to scroll all the way down and add it to your cart. It is free. So you just check out with the free item. And then watch for an email on how to download this. It's the same thing if you buy any other digital products. Those will also be included in an email. So our main topic for today, as you already know, is Cosplay Stitchery, which is a software made for cosplayers. And all of the different projects on this slide were made using Cosplay Stitchery. So whether you want to make a fun, Ren Fair outfit like the capelet, you can do that. You can make magical girl bows, you can make trims, and you can do things where you're combining multiple different mixed media aspects. So you can do rhinestones, embroidery, work with HTV, all in one software, which is really exciting because you get to do it all in one place instead of jumping between 3 softwares. Again, that saving time aspect so we can make more costumes. All right. And within Cosplay Stitchery, there are multiple ways you can use a design. The first way is artwork. So this is a vector file, right? So if you are going to be cutting something with a digital cutter, this is the file type you would want to use. Then we have the embroidery version. So you can convert between these two. And the embroidery, that can be a fill, that can be an outline, an applique, you name it. This example right here is a simple fill. Additionally, you can turn it into a rhinestone design. So you can make rhinestone outlines, gradients, or rhinestone fills. And we're going to be talking about all of these today. So let's get into our first design here, which is this little Asian themed flower where we are going to talk about how you can use the built-in artwork library and some tools, especially the repeat tool and carousel tool. So you can take one simple design and, spruce it up just a little bit more. And we are also going to talk how you can convert into embroidery and applique. Let's pull up our example here and hit play. So up here is where you can see our lovely artwork catalog that has many options. And I'm here using one of the Asian flower designs because I thought it was a cute design and that it would make for a really nice applique. Now, you can resize things here. So here I am actually ungrouping. And I am also going to pull in some extra shapes because I wanted to make a border around this design just to make it a little bit more unique, right? So here's a scroll design that I decided I liked. We're going to add that in and resizing, dragging it down and making it a bit smaller. Placing it up at the top just so I can kind of, see how it compares to the size of the flower. And I'm going to use the repeat tool here to overlap it. So you can make a grid by adjusting how many across and down. You can mirror as well as flip each of these designs. So what I'm going to do is mirror and then decrease the horizontal distance to make them overlap rather than, just trying to do it by eye. Because I think doing it by eye is, a little bit more difficult. So I like using the handy dandy tool. And then we're going to weld these together and place it here again, just to get an idea of how it looks in comparison. Now, if I want to rotate this all the way around, there's another handy tool, which is the carousel tool, where we can adjust the angle and number of repeats for this design. You can also adjust the overall size, so the width and height of it here. So I'm going to make this smaller. There we go. And we're going to apply that. And you can see how it shifted around. And now we have this all the way around our flower. And then we're going to resize our flower just a little bit bigger, though, to better fit the frame. And for selecting, you can either drag and click individually, or select items via the sequence list on the right-hand side. So I went ahead and ungrouped the items here, and I'm going to convert them into an applique. So we have a couple of different options up here. I'm going to do the regular applique button here just to show you how it looks. And now you see we went from an artwork into stitches. And over here, you can see some stitch properties where we can, change colors for when you're doing an applique so that it automatically stops. You can control density. And here I am applying a fabric to the inside because I like to visualize ahead of time how something could look. And built in, we have a couple of different options. So this is how it could look with a gold Caesar Aurora HTV. And I actually do have this example to show you in person. Now, we have another way you can convert into stitching, which if you select and right click, you can convert there, which like I did. And we'll be doing that again up here. So we're going to convert to, this time, a complex fill. And if you want to see, again, how this looks a bit more realistically, you can turn on the realistic view. And then back over here on the right-hand side, you can change the fill pattern. So you can apply a lot of fun textures. So here is the smooth texture. Then we have the tatami mat. So there's a lot of different options depending on what you want. And if you are doing a larger design, you can easily go ahead and mix these different patterns together to bring more definition to your embroidery. Now, when this is done, you're going to go up over to the File menu and Export or Save As. So you're just going to save and select the file type you need for your machine. And Cosplay Stitchery has a large variety of file types. So no matter what machine you have, there is the file type you need for your machine, and you can export it and send it to your machine and get stitching. So now let's swap over to our overhead camera for our first demo. Let me slide on over here. All right, so first off, before we dive into the example with our flower, I do want to do a quick hooping demo. Oh, we're going to slide this right here. So for this demo, I have the Snap Hoop Monster, and this is a magnetic embroidery hoop, which comes with three main parts. We have the magnet here, which I did add the stick-on ruler to. We have the carrier shield. So this is for storage, but also if you're moving your hoop around, it's really handy to keep this around. And then we have the base metal frame here. So this is where we're attaching to our machine. And as you see, we have these suede fuzzy patches to help protect your machine while you're using it. Now, for our hooping demo, I'm also going to use these hoop setters, which will just help hold this in place and make it a little bit easier to line these up. So even without these, it is easy to hoop with this mat because this is a non-slip silicone grip one, and this is our Cosplay Stitchery one. So we do have the logo. You can see a little bit of it right here. And I really enjoy using this for hooping. It's far better than just an average cutting mat or a tabletop because I used to struggle a lot more with it when my hoop was constantly sliding around. But for this example, we are going to drop it on these. And these hoop setters have a groove here so that it latches underneath and you just slide it in place. Let's scoot this up a little bit more for you. Now, for this, I am using a polyester dupioni and some medium soft tearaway stabilizer. Let me flip that around right here. And one thing I want to highlight about the stabilizer that I really enjoy that Dime does is they have the name on the end, as well as the fact that this is a tube. So you can hang it instead of just having a giant pile of stabilizers that you're like, I don't know what one it is. You can store it whichever way. And as you can see the end, you can see which type it is. Now, if you don't know what kind of stabilizer to use, Dime also has this handy cheat sheet, which is the embroiderer's compass, and you have a variety of options around the edge here. So if we were going to be using velvet, which is what it's set to right now, you can see here that it would suggest peel and stick with a water-soluble topping. So that tells you then what things you should use, but also you have needle recommendations because, you know, different fabrics are going to behave better with different needles, and it's important that you are matching the needle type to your fabric. And finally, we have some handy comments at the bottom that, will help make this process just a little bit easier for you because we don't want to struggle. And I know from when I first started, I did not enjoy every time I was using a different fabric. I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to go to the internet and try to figure out what I should use for this because I don't want to have to, constantly do this and try 5 times before I finally use the right materials. This cheat sheet will save you time. Now let's get into hooping. So again, here is my medium soft tearaway stabilizer that we are just going to set right in here. Then we are going to take our dupioni and set that in here. Just press that down. So now for the fun part, we have the magnetic top frame, and we're going to line it up and scoot it to where it is touching and lining up with the 4 guides right here on the edge. And we're going to drop it. Now, you do need to be careful when you're dropping it because you don't want the snap monster to bite you, but when you become friends with the snap monster, it's great. And another really good thing compared to a standard hoop is how easy it is to adjust and make sure your fabric is nice and taut. So you can just, go around like this until you are happy, and then you are ready for embroidery. And when you pick it up, your hoop setters just slide off like that, and we are ready to go. So now that we're done there, let's actually look at some of those flower examples that I mentioned. So here is the full sample where I used some of Dime's exquisite threads here and matched it to some of the Caesar glitter HTV that I used for this applique. And let's see. Let me pull this out. This is another handy thing, especially since sometimes it is very hard to get an idea of how things are going to look in person. There is a thread color card where we have many, okay, my setup here is not even big enough that you can see the whole vast number of threads, but all of this, each color here is actual thread wrapped around this card. So you can see the real color of it and compare it to whichever fabric you are using for your project or your HTV and see what matches it best. And then you can go ahead and be like, oh, I need this number right here. And that's going to be the perfect color that will make me happy and enjoy how my project looks. So we have a wide variety of options. Like I said, it's very large when it's unfolded. So let's go ahead and fold this guy back up and move it out of the way. Now, we do have a couple of different options too when it comes to applique. So let's start with the Aurora right here. And I have some other samples to pull out. So one moment. So this is the Caesar Aurora HTV right here. And I have little cuts of each of them so you can see the different colors. And this is like a fabric-based HTV that is very iridescent and pretty, and I really enjoy it. I like making sparkly costumes, so it brings me joy. And there's plenty of colors, and there are a variety of colors from Dime that match it, whether you are using a regular exquisite thread or if you want to pair it with a metallic thread. There's metallic thread that matches each of these colors. Now, we have another option here, which this is actually going to be a little bit more fun. So here is a glitter HTV applique. And what makes glitter appliques fun when you're working with HTV is you let it all go in one like round. You don't need to stop it, and you let it do everything. Then you tear away all the excess. You do not need to go ahead and cut around all of the appliques after the tack down stitch, which is different than if you're using fabric or the Aurora HTV. So this needs to be cut like a regular applique would, but our glitter HTV can be torn. And let's see if I can get this one up or if I need to grab tweezers for it. All right, we're going to grab tweezers. Let's see if we can hook this. There we go. Again, it is super easy to tear because of all the holes that are poked in it from the embroidery process. And there you go. Now, Cosplay Stitchery, when you set it to doing a vinyl applique, it does do a tack down stitch here in the middle that you can't really see well with this color. But with our next example, you'll be able to see it. So here we have a flocked HTV. So this is the Caesar Strip Flock Pro. And hopefully you can see the small pink line within the design right here. And that is a tack down stitch to help secure it in place. And similar, we're going to grab the tweezers again, to the glitter, we can hook this and tear away any of the excess. Like so. Oh, there we go. So here is our lovely applique flower with 3 different types. So we have our flocked HTV, our glitter HTV, and our Aurora HTV. And each of these, when you are done, you do need to press them afterwards so that the HTV will bond with the fabric. But after that, you are good to go. So we're going to look back at this one, which this is the final with that embroidered border. And like I said, the glitter right here in the middle. And can you tell I am a fan of the glitter HTV because I like sparkly things and idols. But now we're going to swap back over and do another digitizing demo for our next example. Let's pull this back up and pop over here. Oh, there we go. So for the next topic, we are going to be talking about how you can create custom patches. Because with cosplays, you know, you might be making a character with a uniform, or maybe you just want a fun character-themed jacket. It's not uncommon for you to want to make a fun patch to go with it. That, you know, like I said, you can put on a jacket, you go for some cosplay, you could put it on a bag. You can make one themed to whatever your name is. So, you know, if Beverly wants to make one that says Beverly Downen with her logo, she can easily do that. And Cosplay Stitchery does make it easy because you have built-in patch shapes, and it's really easy to add text, change fonts, and the overall style of it. So let's get into this example. So here I've already pulled in a bow and star example from the library and converted it into stitching like I did before. So I, right clicked and convert to. So here on the drop down menu, you could see all of the parts of it. For the bow, I used the ribbons, bows, and borders Scrolled down, and I just went with this orange one. All right. So now for text, we have the handy dandy text tool right up here. So we click that, and then we click to add text. Up here, you can type in whatever you want it to say. So I'm doing a magical girl theme one because, again, I like my sparkly magical girl idol stuff. So we're going with magical girls. And you can pick whichever font you want to use. Then here you can change the alignment. So if you want it aligned left, right, or center, depending on how many words you have. But then you also have the type. So I'm going to go with the circle type here and apply this. And you can see how it shifted over. And I have 2 rings. We're going to place this around our design. And if we click and change the radius of these circles, we can adjust the sizing as well as how curved those letters are. And you also see the little blue and black dots. That allows you to have more custom control over the spacing and how the letters are looking. Now we're going to go back to our regular click tool. I'm going to select here, convert to satin. So whether you are using one of the buttons at the top or, right-clicking to get to that menu, it is super easy to make something from an artwork into stitching. We're going to group these items, and then we're going to go back over here to the artwork library and use patch shapes. So there's a variety of built-in ones here, and these are all artwork files, so we can size them however we want right now because there's no stitches associated with this. We're going to make this smaller and place it. So here I'm just eyeballing it, but there are a variety of built-in alignment tools. And then we're going to convert this to applique. And again, we have options over here at the side. So rather than type for satin, I'm going to select patch. And then there's some other options there. We're going to apply that just to make sure it all saved. So there we go. We have a custom patch that is ready for stitching. And similar to before, you would go over to File and save as whichever type you need. Now, another fun thing that you can do in Cosplay Stitchery is under the File menu, if you go to print out your design, you can create templates and export that and print it. And that's going to be important, and we'll come back to that. But for now, we're going to swap back to the under camera view and look at some patches. So, let me get this placed out. All right. So if we change to the under camera, we will look at the process of stitching out a patch and the different steps involved. I'll go ahead and pop it over here. All right, there we go. Well, let me adjust this up a little bit. But before we talk about the steps, I did mention the templates that you can make. Well, there we go. Hopefully our lighting is all right for you there. And I already did trim this down, but I didn't cut it all the way. So when you do the print design, you add this crosshair to it. So that will tell you where the center of your design is, which is handy if you're using this for embroidery purposes. But you can take this design, cut it out, and then use it as a template for how to cut your shapes if you don't have a digital cutter. Now, if you have a digital cutter, you can actually leave this rounded patch shape as an artwork file and send that to your cutting machine, which is very handy because then it is cutting that base for you and you don't have to. So you have 2 options. Use this as a template or let your digital cutter do it. Now, for patches, we have a couple of important steps, but first we're going to talk about what you can use to do this. So this here that is on right now is some of Dime's heavy-duty water-soluble stabilizer. And this stuff is great and meant for dense stitching. So when you're doing a patch and you have that really dense stitching going on around the edge here, it will hold it well and not, just crumble apart in the hoop on you. But additionally, another thing that makes a big difference when you're making patches is the material you are using itself. So here we have some poly patch twill. And this is professional quality patch material that Dime has. Which actually, when we bring Gloria up, I'm going to have her share a fun story with you that me as a space nerd really enjoyed about this patch material. But it has a very smooth texture. And if you look at it, it is very stiff. So if you compare this to something like felt or just cotton or whichever fabric you are trying to use as a backing, this is much stiffer and bounces back to its original shape. So you're going to have a very professional finished patch that will last a long time instead of looking good for maybe one wear and then you're sad because the patch you spent some time designing, kind of turned floppy and is sad. It also comes in a variety of colors. So here we have the bright pack. And here is another pack of colors. So whichever idea you have, there's should be a color that matches your project well. And now for the actual stitching process. Once you have your materials, you can see here we have step 1, which is doing the placement stitch. So this stitch, you can kind of see it here. It doesn't pop out a lot, but there is a stitch here which tells you where you would want to put your patch material. Then for step 2, we've placed our patch material. So this is our poly patch twill. The tack down stitch is holding it all the way around. And then for 3, we have our design stitching out. And for 4, that final dent stitching around the edge, which is again why it's really good to have this heavy duty water soluble stabilizer because it holds up to the dent stitching. Now, when that is done, you can use Dime's patch attach on the back side here. So this does not happen. This is the back side of the embroidery. But the patch attach, again, is a professional quality patch material that will ensure it is properly adhered to your project. And it is a heat activated adhesive. So you're going to iron that on and then be happy because your patch will not budge or go anywhere. So now let's go ahead and bring back Gloria and see what you guys have been talking about. Hello, hello. But also,
well, hello.
patch twill.
Okay, sorry. You guys, again, have been attacking me with these questions in the greatest way. There are so many things going on in the chat right now. So we just finished up with patches, correct?
Yes, we did. So we did our appliques, HTV, and patches.
Okay.
It's a lot.
So I'm assuming at this point you want to share space-time stories.
Yes, yes. We want to know why we have this really good patch material.
So for those who haven't heard it, and I have no shame in sharing this story excessively over and over again, one of the founders of Dime, his father used to own a patch production business, let's put it that way. And he used to produce these amazing patches. Like his business got so big, we even had his patches go into space. And that's just
a little cool.
So that's just a little cool.
We have just a little.
Building. Yeah, we have it in the building. It's framed, and I get to look at it every day and kind of drool a little bit. But that just tells you that one of the founders, both of our founders, are just a wealth of knowledge in machine embroidery, and because he was literally born into it. So he has decades upon decades of life knowledge from this. And one day we were sitting around the table conversing about all the things that make us sad in machine embroidery. And one of them was, well, I want to make patches as good as the beautiful ones that I would see when I go to convention or, you know, at the patch shop or wherever you're buying your magical patches. And because here I have a couple of these little sad ones that I made really early on.
I didn't realize you were ready to bust out the sad ones.
I do have the sad ones. I wasn't sure if I was going to get to show them today, but they're just like so sad and floppy, and I don't like them. This one's made out of felt, and it just gets really kind of fuzzy and hairy when it's like in
marginally
a plastic bag. And you know, it's not going to live in a plastic bag its whole life. I want to wear it. I want it to go out into the world and let people see it and enjoy it with me.
Which actually, you reminded me, and I had this sitting here, so I'm going to bring it up. Another thing I'm going to trial with the patch material is making a custom like jet tag for a key ring. And again,
Okay.
look at how stiff this material is. So even though it's like a 1 inch wide strip,
Look at that.
look at that. Stiff,
Oh,
it's good, that bounce.
I got distracted. So the reason we have patches though is because of his dad and his ability to. They had that material.
Mhm.
They had that legit patch
The
material.
good
And
stuff.
so he was looking at us like we're like, why don't I just get it? Like you could have gotten it the whole time. So now, as Kirsten showed you, we have all the magical amounts of colors that we have in
So many
12.
colors.
And just so you can see it when it stitches out, you kind of saw the material it stitches out on already. And then when you're done, you just kind of peel it away
Mm. We
from. And
love
look
that
how
embroidery ASMR too, with the
I
peel and
know,
the pop it out.
but look at that. There's no cleaning on that. The only thing I have to clean is a little bit of extra plastic on the back. Click
Mhm.
that off, and I'm ready to get that sucker glued on, sewn on, however I
Uh-huh.
want to get that on my project
Where it's gonna live forever because it ain't gonna budge.
forever. Because what's the magical thing about that? A patch attach.
Well, it is our lovely, professional quality, permanent adhesive material, so it ain't going anywhere.
I haven't had it fall off just yet, and
Mhm.
we're a little abusive to our projects.
Oopsies.
Have you
Alright, but
seen
those
airport
questions you
security?
mentioned.
Yes. Let me see what else I have over here. I'm
Right.
sorry, guys, if I miss it. Know that my chat window is kind of small, and so if you notice that your chat question goes away, please repost it so I can catch it. I have no issues with that.
Mhm.
Okay, a lot of questions are about the artwork that you can use when you're digitizing.
Okay.
So, can you use AI files? Can you use PNG files? Can I work on JPEG files? For those who don't know, that's the difference between a pixelated cartoony image and that beautiful clean vector with
Mhm.
no pixelation whatsoever. It's just ready to go. Can you use all these to create embroidery designs?
Yes. So actually, in one of our ending examples, I'm going to show you an image that I brought in and converted because we do have an auto vector tool. So if you are pulling in a regular JPEG, or maybe it's something you drew on, your tablet or something, right? If you can get some sort of clean art file, because we don't want it too pixelated, because if you want a really high quality thing, the more high quality you can give it, the better the product is going to be. So you can run it through the auto vectoring, and it will convert it into a design that is an artwork file. So again, that's no stitches, it is ready for cutting. And then you can either cut it or turn it into embroidery or rhinestones. So you have a
Yeah,
couple of different options there.
yeah. I'm trying to see if there's anything else that's over here, but that's a big thing because when it comes to vector versus raster, which is pixelation versus not
Mhm.
pixelated, the cleaner that you can start, the easier, the less cleaning you'll have to do
Mhm.
in the next step.
Mhm.
So either you start with a clean picture or you use that auto vector and get something a little bit cleaner than what you would have gotten with that
Mhm.
raster. Let's see,
But you
there's
got
anything else.
options,
But
and
you
you can
have
make those custom
options.
designs if don't quite find what you want in the artwork library. There are plenty of options for making your own stuff from scratch, whether you're drawing it or auto vectoring.
Ooh, I'll make one more point before I wrap this one up actually about if you have a really ugly pixelated design, but it
Oh.
generally has the shape that you need, you can bring it in as a background image and trace on top of it.
Mhm.
And then you have that template that you can again scale as you need. But now you have three options to bring in pictures to make it work for what
Mhm.
you need it to be.
And we will
So,
also show how to bring images in as a background reference image that you can draw on top of.
right.
So we will get there.
Yay! Okay, I love that. I love that. Okay, I think that's going to be it for now. I will catch you later.
Alrighty. So now we're going to talk again about one of my favorite things, which is making custom trim. Because I really enjoy being able to bring fun little details into my costumes and make it character specific. Which, on my Princess Peach, I made a custom trim that had alternating stars and mushrooms because it's Princess Peach of the Mushroom Kingdom, right? So I, just wanted to throw that little character detail in. So we will talk about how you can make a custom trim here, how you can use bling, as again, if you are an idol or magical girl fan, or you just like sparkly stuff, you can add rhinestones without having to place them one by one, which is a big time saver. We're going to talk about how you can convert to HTV and export cut files. Multi-hooping, which is big because we don't want to be limited by our hoop size. We want to be able to do nice large embroidery pieces. And we're also going to talk about the rhinestone starter kit, which that's how you can make, rhinestone application a lot easier. Let's go ahead and get into it. So here I have already pulled in designs from the artwork library. I have a scalloped border as well as some music notes. And right now, these are all artwork files because my theme here is kind of idle vibes that we're going for. And I did use the repeat tool to space these correctly. Now, the border I use for that scalloped edge is over here in ribbons, bows, and borders. And you can see there's a lot of different border lace options. And I'm using the scallop one right here. Then our music notes are actually a small part of this just general note design right here, because you can pull in an artwork file with multiple pieces and use specific parts of it because you can break it apart. Now to convert this, we're just going to right click and go to satin. So that is now stitches. Here we have our music notes. And if I wanted to see how this could look as HTV, we're going to go over here and click Caesar. And we could use the Aurora again, but we're actually going to do glitter HTV because I think that would suit the idle vibes here if it was like a glittery one. So then to add our rhinestones, I'm going to go over here to the pen tool and I'm going to make a line that goes all the way across. So this pen tool can be used to draw shapes or lines, and there's a couple of different built-in shapes. But here we are just using a line, and we're going to go up to the bling stroke tool, which is just another button at the top. There is bling fill as well as bling point. So whether you are converting a line or an outline, you want a filled shape, or you just want to place individual rhinestones, you can. So once you do that, you can select the rhinestone size you're going to be working with, as well as the spacing. So I'm going to put in the spacing that actually works with the size of my scallops here. And you can see how those circles adjusted, and those circles are where the rhinestones will be. All right, so there they are. And if you want to see how this would actually look with rhinestones and stitching, we can click the realistic view and get an idea of how it would look. I'm going to toggle that back off. So then if we want to export bling, we're going to go here to the menu, click export bling, and you can see you can select the type. So I would leave this as an SVG, and you see how you can add a frame here. Here's the other types. So, whatever your cutting machine needs, you can generate it, and you would save that file and then send it over to your cutting machine. Now for artwork, it's going to be very similar. You would just click artwork here and then save it to your computer as whichever type you need. But let's get into the fun example here, where we are going to talk about multi-hooping. So we're going to use these stitched out placement markers, which will help you place your multiple hoops of fabric and get it aligned. So I'm going to use the corner ones, and we're going to apply that. And you see how they popped up now? And on this one, actually, because of the rhinestones, it did shift over a little bit. So I would move these in so it's actually lined up with the edge of the stitching. And what's important about this is if you print a template, those stitch marks would show on that paper template like I showed you before. So now let's swap back to the under camera and take some time to look at multi-hooping, some different hoop types, and how we can make this a little bit easier since multi-hooping can be quite daunting. There we go. Let me shift on over. So before we dive into the music note example, I'm going to show you my other new favorite hoop type. Again, I love my Snap Monster, but I also really enjoyed the sticky hoop. And this is a bit different than our Snap Monster because, let me pull out another Snap Monster so I can show you. So again, our Snap Monster, 3 pieces. We have the magnet piece, the shield, and then the base frame here. Now, our sticky hoop is just that metal frame, which it does also come with the rulers, which will help you with alignment. But the big difference is going to be here at the back. This one has this fuzzy suede patch, which is meant to help protect your machine, whereas this one does not have that. And the reason for that is, move this out of the way, because with these hoops, we use sticky stabilizer. I'm actually going to show you how I would hoop some fabric with this. So let me see if I can separate this. These sticky hoops come with I think it's 5 pre-cut sheets. Gloria might have to correct me on that later, but it does come with a certain number of pre-cut sticky stabilizer sheets for that hoop size. And if you peel it up, you see we have our sticky stabilizer here, and then this carrier sheet. So we're going to pull that carrier sheet to the side, and we're going to place this onto here, like so. So the reason we don't have those suede strips on the bottom is so that we can put the stabilizer here and have it attached to the frame. And this stabilizer is going to act as that like protection for your machine. So if we flip this over, we have our sticky top here. And with this, you can stick your fabric on it, or if you were embroidering an item, you could put that on here. So if you have something that is, like velvet here with a pile that you don't want to crush with a top frame, you can do that this way. Or maybe you have something that's just a little bit too thick for the snap monster. Well, you can float it using your sticky stabilizer. So now I'm going to show you how I use this. And we're just going to gently lay this velvet on here and smooth it. Oh, I did get a little bit of a wrinkle, but the joy is we can just peel it up and press it back down. So now this velvet would be ready for embroidery, and I could put our topper on here, because again, if you remember that example I showed earlier with the embroidery compass for velvet did say we want to use peel and stick with a topper. So we have the peel and stick on there. It is not going to budge. And we just need to put our topper on here to help prevent our stitches from sinking into the pile. But our lovely sticky stabilizer got this. And the other good thing, actually, before I move this away, is since it is easy to reposition, because again, we can peel this up and shift it around. If you are doing multi-hooping, this makes it very easy because you can slightly adjust your placement as you need while you are working. So now we're going to slide that down. And then we're going to jump into our lovely music note trim here, which this is a little bit long, so bear with me a moment. We already have, scoop this, 2 hoops worth done of this. And remember how I pointed out those placement markers that we added at the corner? So you can see pink ones here, kind of. And actually, you see the white one here and here a little bit better. And then they line up with the second hoops worth of stitching that we did. And at the end of this one, roll this a little bit, you can see we have placements here. Now, if we want to do this third hoop, you can take a printed template. So here is our design, which we did add a little bit more to it. But this design has the markers right here. And the issue, if you're using just paper for this, is, well, how am I going to see if these lines are actually lined up with these? Because this paper is solid and it moves around quite easily, which is a little bit of a problem if I want to know exactly where the dead center of my hoop needs to be in order for me to, stitch this out and have a nice continuous bit of trim. Well, we have some handy dandy template material called print and stick target paper. And this is a transparent material right here, which it is great and you can use it many times. And I don't really know if the camera's picking it up, but there's quite a bit of fuzz on here because how many times I've peeled this off and stuck it to fabric. And it comes with a little carrier sheet right here that you can store it on when you are not using, because again, you can reuse these. And what you do is you're going to generate this file and send it to your printer, but instead of printing on paper, you put this in there. And your printer will be able to print out the design on here as if it were paper. Some printers, it might have to have some slight setting changes. I've heard that some behave better if you set it to the photo paper setting because of the texture here, but at least on my printer, I was able to treat it like normal paper and get a nice template. And the reason why I really enjoy the clear, transparent templates is if we peel this off, we take this, we can see right here, I can see the white thread as well as the one here, and then line it up, some with the top one right there. So then I'm going to smooth this out like so. And now I could take this and put it on my sticky hoop or whichever hoop you want to use. And I like using the sticky hoops with sticky stabilizer for this just to make placement a little easier. And you can place it, figure out where your center is, and get it lined up nicely. Now, if you are having some problems like getting this placed on your hoop, Dime does also have the PAL 3, which is an alignment laser, which will give you a crosshair that you can use to like show where center is based on your ruler. And sadly, I didn't set mine up, but I can go ahead and grab the box real quick. And the box does show what I'm talking about with the laser. So here we go. It has this cross-haired laser. So if you set your hoop down on your hoop mat, like, let me pull this up. So we're actually going to pull this off. I could place this and have the PAL line up with our 0 marks here to show me where center is. And then I'd be able to place my fabric and place this on top because the crosshairs would show me exactly where this needs to be sitting. And even without, you can do it. It just depends on what you find easier and what will help you based upon your project. So if you find it very difficult, PAL and print and stick target paper are there for you. All right, so then I'm going to slide this guy back over. And we're just going to leave this template material on there because, like I said, it sticks really well. We're going to look at the rhinestones here. So this is actually quite a simple rhinestone design because it is a line. But with that template we made, I was able to cut this. You might be asking, what the heck is this pink stuff, right? Well, this pink stuff is part of the rhinestone starter kit. So we're going to move this now out of the way, and I'm going to show you the starter kit. Let me rotate this way. So the tube's a little bit long here, but this starter kit comes with what you need to get started for doing rhinestone templates. Now I'm going to show you the different parts of this starter kit. So it includes your like fuzzy template material, and this is sticky backed right here. We have our lifting material. You're going to get some rhinestones in there. Again, we like our sparkly stuff. And this brush, which it does come in 2 pieces, so you do have to slide it together like so. And what you can do with this is you cut your design out using this pink material. You're going to place your rhinestones and have it transfer ready with this lifting tape. And I do have a video prepared to show you how we use these kits to make, let me pull out the little template here, this star pattern. So let me pull that up, and then we will, after this video, pop back under to look at some other rhinestone examples. So let's go here. So here are the different pieces I told you about. So we have our brush, we have rhinestones. And in this example, I do have a baking tray that I just bought for crafting. So it's a little bit smaller than a normal one, but I also didn't really want to steal a tray from our kitchen. It's not the first time cosplayers have baking materials in their craft room, right? So what we do here is the template that we generated with Cosplay Stitchery. I'm sticking it to the baking tray. Then we're going to dump an excessive amount of rhinestones on there. And then just using circular motions, you're going to gently brush over it with that brush, and the rhinestones are going to start falling and flipping into place. And when all of your circles are filled, you're just going to brush that away. We're gonna keep on brushing. And it is easier, like the more rhinestones you pour out, and that's why I like doing this on a baking tray, because when I'm done, I just scoot them to a corner and dump them in. Then we have our lifting tape. So we're gonna peel that away from the carrier. Press that on, and just to make sure the rhinestones are attached well, I'm gonna go over it with the brush. And there we go. So this star is now ready to be applied to fabric. And it is hot fix rhinestone, so you do have to actually heat it to get it to stay in place. And now we're gonna swap back to the under camera so I can show you a couple of more rhinestone related things that you can do. I'm actually gonna bring out my little tray here. So this is the star. Again, we have our template we made with Cosplay Stitchery and cut with the digital cutter. So that's why we have all these little circles, and you do have to pluck the circles out. But there are different things you can do with the software. So this is just a bling fill shape. And with those fill shapes, you have a couple of different options. Scoot that there. So this shows a variety of the fill types you can do. So depending on how you want it to look, you might want to use a different fill type. Additionally, if you wanted to like individually move these rhinestones within the software, you can before you generate this cut file. Like I mentioned before, you can make outlines. So here's some outline bat wings. And finally, something that I'm very excited about that I don't have to place by hand anymore, gradients. Because the number of times I've spent many, many hours placing rhinestones for a gradient one by one late at night for a costume is too many. But you can go ahead and actually make this in the software. And what I did was I created a couple of different rectangles and changed the spacing of the rhinestones. And here's how that actually looks if you look at a comparison between, template versus how this actually looks on fabric with the rhinestones. Now, you can go through and do more fine tuning by hand and individually adjust the placement here, but, this alone will save a lot of time. And I know the next time I have to do a gradient, I'm making a template for it. I am not placing them one by one anymore. So now I do have another thing to show you, which I did mention this about how you can do all of this stuff in one place. All right. So here's an example here. Slide that up, where I do have a variety of techniques, and I did all of this within Cosplay Stitchery. So I created my designs here. I have my HTV appliques, and I have my rhinestone templates. I also actually multi-hooped this. So I did this section as one, and then used a little bit of the print and stick target paper to create a little moon. That way I could use my smaller hoop and do 2 hoops for the moons. And here we go. So I could actually see how this full design looked in one software and have all the file types right there without jumping between things. So I was very excited to have this at my disposal for making this fun space-themed belt. But again, an important thing, we have hotfix rhinestones and HTV, which means we have to press this, right? So I do have another fun tool to show you here. So let me pull that up. Oh, Pearl Starter Kit. I'm getting slightly ahead of myself. So there's another option. We do have rhinestones and pearls. So you can pick between the two of these. And depending on which you pick, the hotfix item is going to change. So you're either going to get rhinestones or the assorted pearls, which do come in a variety of colors, which we'll talk a little bit more about that after the next video. So let's get this playing. So this is a heat press where you can control the temperature, pressure, time, and not have to like sit there and press down on it, which personally made me very excited because I have a heat press. And while it is great for setting a temperature and a timer, the problem is I am there leaning over my ironing board, pressing down, trying to make sure I'm getting even pressure. With this, you don't have to do that. You slide it onto the drawer and let the machine do its job. And then you're not there pressing down which is great, especially if you do have wrist problems. And I know a lot of us cosplayers, because of, some of the hobbies we've decided to do, we do quite a bit of damage to our wrists, and not having to press down on something is very nice. So I'm very excited about this Pro Press. And you can use it for HTV and rhinestones. So it is some really good stuff. And now we're going to talk about some bracers, because I mentioned those studs, right? So this example is where I used the studs. I went ahead and imported a background image, because we did talk about that, how you can use the background image as a reference and draw out what you want, how to import an SVG, and then another stitching type. And then we're going to look at some fun materials to make this bracer, have a little bit more oomph to it, which is a little bit important, right? So let's hop on over to our video for how we make this bracer. Get this guy going. So we're going to go over here to the backdrop tool. And here you can see my bracer pattern. So I did the handy dandy cling wrap and tape method on this. Now you could adjust the size, or you can define scale, which, because I took this image on top of a cutting board, I can just mark 1 inch and set it to 1 inch. And now it is perfectly scaled for the size of bracer that I need in order for it to actually fit my arm correctly. Now, if we are bringing in an SVG, we just go over to File and Import Artwork, like I did. So this is already a very clean file. Like Gloria said, if you give it a vector, it's going to be really happy, and you're not really going to have to do cleanup work. So there we pulled in a second one, and we're just going to rotate this around, straighten it out some. Going to size this up a little bit. And again, I'm just eyeballing it for now to get it lined up. We'll do some actual alignment once I make the second one here. So we're going to flip that tool. And then I'm going to distribute these. That way their spacing is even, and then align them centered. So now I'm going to change the color here down at the bottom. So I just clicked on the green color. I went ahead and left click that, converting it to fill. And I'm going to give it a tatami fill, just to make it a little bit different. Now for this center design, I'm going to convert to a fill as well, but I'm going to give it smooth, just so it looks a little bit different than the other design. And for this, I'm going to give it a different thread color. So Dime does, like I said before, have a variety of exquisite threads, but this time I'm going to show you a metallic thread, because I love the Kingstar metallic thread. So when I pull this out under the overhead, you're going to see how this thread looks in person, and hopefully you're going to like it. So now I am just drawing out the rough border shape that I want with the steel stitch tool that was at the top. And then if we use this tool, I can adjust the different vertices of this. So if I want to make it smooth, I want to make it like straight lines, you have all those little controls. Then we're going to do another one for the bottom here. So now you see why it is really handy to be able to pull in that background image and design on top of it. Then we're going to just duplicate this and make a second version, because I want 2 bands of this design. I'm going to align these right here. And then we are going to do the same thing with the top one here. So I'm going to scoot this down, and then we're going to copy it and make another one. So here I'm just using Control-C and Control-V. You can right-click and copy-paste. Then we're going to go back here and adjust the points. So I'm going to just adjust the outlines. And now you can see how it's no longer pushing over the edge of my paper pattern. And also a quick note here, those green and red dots are actually going to be the start-stop of your stitching. So if you knew for some reason you wanted it to start at a different spot, especially if you have a more complex design and you want it to fill it a certain way, you can adjust those points as well. All right, so let's get another copy here. But what we're going to do with this copy, we're not going to leave this as thread. We're going to go to Bling Stroke. Then we're going to go here to the bottom and click on a color, similar to how we did with the thread. but we're going to go to Rhine Stud, which they also have the pearls in here as well, which is the kit that we have. And you can see how now it looks different. It is no longer a rhinestone, but it behaves like one. This is going to be a dome shaped rather than a rhinestone, and you export it exactly the same way as you would a normal bling design. So now let's go ahead and swap back to our overhead and look at some of our pearl designs before we dive into the bracer. So we already looked at rhinestones, but now here are our studs. So if you are looking for a different style and design, because again, you don't want everything to be sparkly, but maybe you don't want to have to place metal studs one by one. Well, these guys come in a variety of color with the different finishes. So if we can have the different, there we go. Now they're pulled up. So here on the side, you can see the different colors that it comes in. We have our pearled finish ones, but then we also have these metal finish ones. So we have gunmetal, silver, this brass color, gold, as well as a coral color. And these behave just like the regular rhinestone template material that you use. So you generate this design. With Cosplay Stitchery, you let your digital cutter cut it out, you remove the circles, and then you can peel and stick this onto a tray or whatever surface you want to work with. Again, I like the trays because it makes the cleanup a little bit easier. And you brush over your hot fix pearl stud guys, and then transfer it with the transfer tape. And you can do that with a variety of design types. You are not limited. As you see here, we have all of our little guys that actually went together to make this. And yeah, I really enjoy this because personally, I've found it very difficult sometimes to place studs on my costumes, depending on the type of material I'm working with. It can be a pain to poke them through and try to bend those prongs. With this, you don't have that finger pain. You have an easy template that you're ironing in place, or you're using that handy dandy heat press I showed you. Again, I'm very excited about that because with the amount of hand embroidery I do, I am not kind to my wrist, so not having to press down on something like that is very nice. But now let's go ahead and actually look at those bracers I mentioned. So I have two versions here for you. So give me a second to pull them out. So first off, we have this one. So again, I did size this so that like I can wear this as an actual finished piece. Slide that up a little bit. And here is two colors of the Kingstar metallic thread. And I'm actually going to pull out a third color. And this thread is absolutely wonderful. And if you told me years ago that I would be a fan of metallic thread, I would have told you you were lying. Because as we all know, metallic thread can be a pain to use. You can have breaking and tangling issues. And, you know, sometimes you can't even have it on your machine. People put it on the floor in a bowl. Well, with this stuff, you don't actually have to do that. You could use it on your machine. You don't need to turn down the speed settings. And you can even use it in the bobbin. So this stuff is some really good stuff right here. And I love it. I'm never using other metallic thread again. But back to our actual bracer design. So here it's on a cotton fabric. We have our different stabilizers here, which if you look at the compass, that's how you can help determine what stabilizers you need. And maybe you do need to layer them like this to make it a nice and sturdy design. Now, if you want to give it a little bit more dimension, on the other hand, like this one, you can use this stuff called Sew Any Shape Foam right here. And this, actually, it's normally used for purses, but it's a squishy material right here that is meant for embroidery. I'm going to move that out of the way so we can look back at this. And you sandwich it between your stabilizer and your fabric. And then you let it stitch on top of it. And I'm going to try to show this on camera. I don't know how well it will show on this. It might show better on the actual bracers. But this is squishy and I have some nice dimension. So if I brush my hand across this, I feel, you know, the valleys in here, and it just gives it a little bit more oomph, which if you're trying to make something like a bracer that you want to look more battled and whatnot, that is the way to go. So here we actually have our little bracers, and now I can rotate this quite easily to where hopefully you can see what I mean about the dimension that you can get with this foam. And you can use this wherever you want. If you wanted to do a cuff or a collar, I know my first thought, as well as some of the other cosplay educators, was bracers would be really cool with this, because normally we're making it out of foam or warbler, right? But what if you want a different look and feel to it and you want embroidery on there, but you still want that dimension? Foam. You can also see here how these studs look and act, and it was really easy to apply them. So now let's talk about some other things. Let's get a sliding on over. So we do have a getting started bundle, which comes with a variety of the different objects and tools I have shown you. So it comes with Cosplay Stitchery. So that is the base software, which this software, even if you get it by itself, it does come with a lesson. So a free 30-minute lesson with someone at Dime where you can ask anything you want to ask, whether it be, hey, I want to make this specific thing. How would I go about it? Or maybe you want to know just some tips and tricks for working in that software. In this, you get assorted rhinestone colors, the template material, lifting tape, rhinestone brush. You get a sample sheet, so it's a full-size sheet, but you get one of Glitter, Aurora, and the Strip Flock Pro, so that's our lovely little plush HTV. A non-stick heat pressing sheet, so that's to make sure you don't accidentally melt the plastic carrier sheet. I know I am not the only one who's accidentally ironed one of those and melted something. Oopsies. Then we also have a practice tote bag, so you can make a design in Cosplay Stitchery, then use one of your HTVs or some rhinestones and, mix it all together and make a cool custom bag. We also have a way for you to test out Cosplay Stitchery, because I know I've shown you a lot, but you might want to get your hands in there and play with it some. So if you get the embroidery tool shed, which is free, and it's at the bottom of the carton near that free potion design, you can try it out. And this trial will give you the full features. However, your files can't be saved. So you can play around with the designing, but you won't be able to make the stuff. But it will give you a chance to get a feel for how these features work and really know, like, if it is something that, does what you want it to do. Maybe you just want to play around and see if it can handle a specific project, right? So you can do that. And this will be emailed if you do add it to your cart. So it'll be emailed just like the potion bottle. Then Dime also offers a lot of free education. So there are built-in in-app videos. If you hover over any icon and hit F2, which if you hover over the icon, it will tell you F2 for tutorial, which will lead you to a YouTube video about it for how it works. Outside of that, there are separate YouTube videos. There's a Facebook user group. They have live events, a blog, and a forum. So if you have questions, if you just want to learn all that you can, there are options out there. So the YouTube channel is great. I know I've watched a variety of these, whether it's digitizing or working with specific things, because as cosplayers, usually we look specifically at cosplay videos. These quilters know so much, and it is really good to branch out and see what they know, since a lot of them have been doing this a lot longer than we have. They have so many tips and tricks. So I really enjoy the YouTube channel. Then, like I mentioned, there is the Facebook group, which has over 5,000 members, and you can ask a whole bunch of questions in there, and there's going to be somebody that can answer your questions. Then they also have software success events where one of Dime's great educators, Ashley Jones, will each time highlight different features of one of Dime's software. So it might not be Cosplay Stitchery, it might be a different one, but the interface is the same. So even if it is built for a different component of Dime software, there's something you can learn, because again, the base is the same, the UI is the same. And it happens twice a month at 1 p.m. Central, and you can watch it on Facebook or YouTube. And a reminder, I've mentioned this a few times, but there is that free potion bottle with all the stitch formats, the bottom of the shopping cart, and it's going to email you for how you download it. So now, before we end, let's bring Beverly back and see what questions there are with Gloria as well.
I think Beverly can
Hello.
also agree. Just that was intense. Like the amount of questions that were in that chat.
Yeah, and I was asking so many questions because that's just what happens when I'm like inspired. Like, oh, you're talking about patches. I have been wanting to make patches, and my husband wants to make patches as well. So I was actually texting him and like, we can make patches. This is so cool. So I'm just trying to write everything down. I'm really glad that we can access this video for 48 hours so I can go back and rewatch. And I'm imagining I can also message and get my questions asked for what was that thing that you were talking about. But there's so many things. I'm especially excited to know that I can import my own custom vector designs into the software. That's such a game changer. And I wasn't completely clear on that before we started, but now I'm very excited. I'm very, very excited because that's really where my realm lies, is the custom stuff. And as cosplayers, we make our own files pretty often. So being able to do that is really going to be a game changer for me. And I'm very excited, very inspired.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what you
that was something I fought
do with
very
it.
hard for.
Yes. You're like,
that was
no,
something
the
I fought very
cosplayers, they
hard
want
for
the
early
custom
on.
stuff.
You know, that's the one thing they asked me, like, what did the cosplayers want? And that was it. It was, can we make it custom? Because that's the only thing they want, is explicitly custom to their size as a person and to the character. Because, you know, even if it's for that character, the person who made it before you is a foot taller than you.
Right. Or they're making a mashup of something, or they need it to match, you know, XYZ, or they want to create some kind of custom. And I'm also thinking Dragon Con, which is a convention that is, you know, full of fun little, you know, swag. The swag game at Dragon Con is pretty big. So now I'm thinking, ooh, can I make some cool patches? That would be really fun. I was gonna say something else too. Yeah, there was just, you went over so many cool things. The compass looks like it's going to be something I'm going to really rely on to help me figure out what I need to use in order to make the thing. Also, I'm also imagining this is going to take a little bit of, there's a learning curve, a small learning curve, but it does seem like you have made many easy buttons for us. And all we need to do is just roll up our sleeves and dive in.
And if you do run into problems, Dime is always willing to help, and you can shoot them messages. You can check those resources they have, because I know I've done digging into the YouTube videos, be like, I want to know about this specific thing. Is there something somewhat related to this that I can look at? And surely enough, there is. And you know, you can see, even just like get inspired by these. Like, I think one of the things I saw was embroidering on like some little like sandal flap or something, right, Gloria? Wasn't there like slippers or something like that?
Oh yeah, that's like an In the Hoop project.
Yeah,
where, you know, it's teaching you how to embroider on things that you didn't think you could have, just because it's already pre-made. It, you know, it's already been assembled. So you're like, how do I do that? And it's stuff like that, like using the sticky hoop. You know, it makes things so much easier. But I like that y'all referenced like the education and further help. And that was a question in the chat at one point, like, okay, what do I do if I still have questions though? I'm like, well, the easiest thing to do is just to honestly go to our customer support, and there's a page that says contact us on the website. Because what they're going to do is they're going to read your question, and either they're going to answer it right then and there because they just know, or they're going to push it to the next person who's like, that's the person that can answer that specific question. Or send you a link to say, you know what, we already have a write-up on this. Look at this. Check this out. So if you have a question after the event, we'll probably hang out for another half hour or so in the chat to answer any questions. But if you miss us, just reach out to our customer service department. They got you.
They do.
But as far as questions go, I have one question, and that was actually Beverly's. I thought that was a great question. She noticed that there was a grid behind your bracer, and you're like, wait, does that mean that I can scale the bracer to like life size scaling and just start drawing it to scale in that moment? Because I've done that before, where I've designed something and I realized, oh no, I've been drawing this and it's like
Mhm.
5 feet wide, and in real life it's like 7 inches. It's like something horrible. And so once you go and shrink it, you lose all of that
Uh-huh.
detail. So yes, you can definitely, Kirsten can tell you, you can
Yes,
scale right at
yes.
the beginning.
Yeah, you can define the scale right away. Because I know at first what I did when I just jumped into the program, and I was like, "Well, I can change the size of the image," but then I was told by one of their educators when, they were showing us bells and whistles, right? And so sometime last year it was that, well, yeah, we have the defined scale right here. So you just click that and you can mark out. So on mine, I was easily able to mark out an inch. But if you have like some other size scale that you have, maybe you can mark out what 2 inches is or half an inch. If you give it something, it will take that entire image and apply that and make it work. And maybe you also didn't take your image totally straight on, right? And it's at a slight angle. You can also, I think it's
Uh,
defined horizon, right, Gloria? I think that's the name.
Yeah, something like that.
Something
But there's
like
only
that.
3 buttons in that menu, so it's like,
Uh-huh. It's one of
yeah.
the other buttons, and I think it is horizon, where if your image was like this, you can fix it because you just like,
oh my
click
gosh,
the corners and there you go. It's going to be nice and square.
that's
Uh-huh.
incredible. Oh my
So
God,
which
there's
Beverly's
almost
gonna
too many
get
options, too many tools. That's great. I
well,
had
here's
this idea in my head that machine embroidery was super, super difficult, just because I just haven't been able to
Mhm.
have the access to educators like you and sessions like this. So this has been really, really great for me personally. I'm sure
I'm
everyone else in the
glad.
chat has learned a lot as well. So thank you very much for everything. This has been awesome.
I think I think
I'm
Beverly's gonna
ready
be
to get
pleasantly
started.
surprised because Beverly, you've worked with several software, so I think the transition for you is just gonna be
Mhm,
so
mhm.
easy.
Yeah,
I
and like I said, the
mentioned that I
interface
was
is so
going on a
nice.
trip later. Oh, sorry, I'm interrupting. I'm
Oh,
just so
sorry,
excited. I want
sorry,
to
you go
talk about
ahead.
all these things. No, I was just saying I made a cloak for with a friend of mine for my New
Mhm.
Zealand trip, a little hobbit cloak. So
Ooh,
now I'm thinking like, ooh, can I add some cool embroidery to it
I hear
to
a little
and
cloak
bring
number.
that.
Oh, you can't see it. A little cloak number.
Oh,
I have my little capelet here, which is all
well,
done. Cosplay
I might
Stitchery.
have to experiment. Oh, I'm so excited. This has been super fun.
Yes, yes. Which I know it was a lot of info, but hopefully it was a lot of inspiration as well. And that's kind of why I tried to choose a variety of projects in here because while we
Mhm.
could deep dive into one thing, we could also cover a little bit about a variety. And then you're like, okay, but what if I do want to make custom patches for Dragon Con and the cloak for your New Zealand trip? There's so much you can do with this software.
Ah, this is great. So if I wanted to pass the 48 hours, learn more about Cosplay Stitchery specifically, do you have any videos? I know it's kind of a newer software program. Do you have a resource already up on the YouTube channel to view it again, or how do
So,
are there resources
so
right now available?
for Cosplay Stitchery, that one is an up and coming video that will come to Software Success at a later time. That is on Ashley's roster of things to tackle
Okay.
because she does was it 2 shows every month,
Mhm.
and so that is on her list. But you can also look at, like Kirsten said, all of the softwares have tools that kind of cross over so you can learn a little bit from the
Mhm.
other videos. The closest one you can find is if you look up videos for cut and stitch software. That's like the
Okay.
closest
Mhm.
member to Cosplay Stitchery, and so you would get a lot of information from that one as well.
All right. I'm writing that down.
If
Awesome.
you have
Okay.
very specific questions, go ahead and reach out to me because I've been using this for over a year now, actually. So,
Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
But as far as
Wonderful.
questions go, I think on my end, I am all set. I think we are good, guys.
all right. Well, I'm glad we had fun
Yeah.
doing this, and I'm glad we all got to learn and have fun projects
Yes.
planned.
Thank you. And I just want to say thank you also to the educators and to Gloria and Kristen and to everyone that came that has been seeing me post about this for a few weeks now. Thanks for being here and for joining me on this this learning thing, this learning journey. I'm starting basically at zero, so I feel like I have a good foundation of knowledge now that I just need to keep on with it. So I hope that if anyone else is also starting, that we can start a dialogue about this and have fun with the machine embroidery, because I'm really, really excited. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Yes, thank you.